The first myths were written over 5,000 years ago, and from them we can trace the heritage of the known written word and its evolution over time through the stories humans told to make sense of their existence and how they changed those stories when they wanted to change their existence. In the beginning of the written word, there existed the Sumerians. Heaven and earth were one thing, a single undifferentiated whole. They called it Enki, sky and earth, inseparable. And then Enlil happened. Enlil is wind. Enlil is the force that moves between things. And what Enlil did in the Sumerian account was separate heaven from earth as a generative expansion, because nothing can exist until there is space for it to exist in. The gap Enlil creates is the condition for existence to be brought forth. Below that gap, in the deep water beneath the world, lived Enki, intelligence, the one who knows. Enki's realm was called the Abzu, the primordial freshwater ocean beneath the earth, and in it he kept the May. And moving between all of it, between heaven and earth, between the deep water and the surface world, between the living and the dead, was Inanna, queen of heaven and earth. But that title undersells her. Inanna doesn't rule from above. Inanna moves. She moves through everything. She is the force that refuses to stay at one level of existence. To understand why any of this matters, you have to understand what the Sumerians believed humans actually were. In the earliest creation accounts, the gods were exhausted. The great gods, the Anunnaki, had been laboring since the beginning, maintaining the world, doing the work of existence itself, and they were tired. So Enki, the intelligent one, the one who knows, devised a solution. He took clay from above the Abzu, from the deep generative water, and mixed it with the blood of a god who volunteered, or was chosen. The counts vary, but the substance is the same: clay and divine blood. This is what humans are made of in the Sumerian account, beings made to relieve the gods of labor and carrying divine substance from the moment of their creation. The Abzu is in them. Source material is in them. They are corporeal expressions of something that runs all the way up. This is the entire baseline anthropology of civilization. What you believe humans fundamentally are determines everything: politics, mythology, relationship to the divine, what you think is possible for a human life. In Sumer, humans carry the divine inside them from the beginning. That is the ground everything else is built on. Now, the May. Enki kept them in the Abzu, a list of everything that makes civilization what it is: kingship, priesthood, the descent to the underworld, the ascent from the underworld, the musical instrument, truth, the art of lovemaking, victory, counsel, the scribal arts, the craft of the smith, wisdom, attention. The descent to the underworld is on the same list as kingship and music. The Sumerians encoded the ability to go under, to lose everything, pass through transformation, as a constituent of civilization itself, a necessary function, as essential as governance, as essential as art. This tells you everything you need to know about what kind of civilization this was. And then, Inanna stole the May. She went to Enki's house in Abzu. They drank together. Enki, generous and perhaps unwary with beer, began offering her the May one by one. Kingship here, priesthood there, the descent to the underworld. Inanna accepted each one and loaded them onto her boat of heaven. When Enki sobered up and realized what had happened, he sent his messengers after her to retrieve them. They never came back. And here is the part that matters. Enki didn't go to war, didn't declare Inanna an enemy, didn't build an army or issue a divine decree reversing what had happened. He accepted it, because the May had moved to where they needed to be. The intelligence that maintains the deep generative order recognized that the force of transformation, Inanna, needed to carry these things into the world. A living system, responsive, generative, not owned by anyone, including the god who kept them. This is mythology functioning in Sumer before the empire arrived. And look at how it maps into the world the Sumerians actually built. The cities, Uruk, Eridu, Nippur, each had a god. The city belonged to the god. The temple was the center of everything: economic, spiritual, civic, because those weren't separate things. The temple administered the grain. The temple recorded the transactions. The temple housed the priests and the scribes. The temple was where heaven and earth met in physical form. and at the center of the temple was the inn. The inn was a servant, a steward, the human being trained and appointed to function as the interface between the divine order and the city. The god owned the city. The inn administered on behalf of the god. Power flowed through the inn, not from the inn. Multiple cities, multiple gods. The structure did not require centralization because it wasn't organized around control. It was organized around alignment. Each city aligned to its own divine principle, each inn serving as the conduit for that alignment. This is what functional looks like. It is also the first documented cosmology and known myths. A cosmology where the human carries divine substance from birth, where the force of transformation moves freely between all levels of existence. The ability to ascend and return is considered as essential to civilization as music or governance, where political authority is a function of service to the people. On the horizon, something is coming that the structure was never designed to resist. What's coming doesn't play by the same rules. His name was Sargon, and he had a different idea about what gods are for.